Hi, welcome to the Global Leadership Podcast, where we go behind the scenes and unpack the stories behind some of today's most effective and dynamic leaders. I'm Lori Hermann, executive producer of the Global Leadership Summit, and I had a chance to talk to Paula Faris today. Paula is the host of the summit, and she is a former faculty of the GLS, but you may know her from her role in broadcast news. She was on ABC News and Good Morning America and The View. Now, Paula is the founder of Carry Media and author of 2 books, of which her latest is releasing this week. And that book's called You Don't Have to Carry It All. Ditch the mom guilt and find a better way forward. But before we share that conversation with you, I just wanted to remind you about the Global Leadership Summit that's coming up on August 3rd and 4th. You definitely want to be a part of this experience. Paula will be back as our host, plus a group of amazing speakers. We have both an online audience as well as you can attend a local host site or come to us in South Barrington, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. You can find a link on how to register on our show notes, and we hope to see you there. Also, we would love it if you take an opportunity to rate our podcast and to subscribe. That just helps other people find us, and we would love your support on that. So now it's time, and I hope you enjoy my conversation with Paula. Hi, Paula. I'm so excited we get to talk this morning. It's so great to see you, and I can't tell where you're at, but I'm guessing you have some great news as to what you're up to these days.
Yes, doing? I am actually I'm in New York City right now, Lori, for my book tour for the book, You Don't Have to Carry It All, Ditch the Mom Guilt and Find a Better Way Forward. So I just got done doing a bunch of radio interviews, and then I've got other interviews this week with The View and Fox and Friends and Fox Business and GMA. So it's going to be a busy week, but it's going to be a great week for motherhood and for working moms, because I'm going to be out there beating the drum for working moms and talking about how we are assets and we are pretty awesome and we are not liabilities. So
so excited. I mean, what an interesting thing that you have come to this point in your journey. This is your second book, and it kind of is great. It's a great tie into what your first book was about vocation and calling. But tell us how you got to this point in your life to be this advocate for working moms, and how'd you get here?
So, Laura, you and I go way back to I was still at GMA and The View. I decided to pump the brakes in 2018. I just, when I was at the height of my career, I was anchoring GMA, co-hosting The View, and I walked into a much less prestigious position at ABC News. And then right before the pandemic, I lost my job. They chose not to re-sign me. And it was in that moment, a lot of people lost their jobs, especially mothers were disproportionately pushed out of the workplace at the beginning of the pandemic for a myriad of reasons. I had 2 choices. I said, should I stay in TV news, which is the safe choice, kind of the expected choice and the comfortable choice, or should I go for this thing that has been burning inside of me for a long time? And that thing was feeling that motherhood is scrutinized and punished instead of celebrated. I just looked at this and I was like, I want to champion this group, this marginalized group of in American society of mothers. I want motherhood to be celebrated instead of scrutinized, instead of punished. So I formed Carry Media, which aims to carry women and carry their burdens, because we know women are carrying a lot. And then I wrote this book, which I'm here in New York City for, which is called You Don't Have to Carry It All, Ditch the Mom Guilt and Find a Better Way Forward. And it's like a hug and a sword for moms. How can we give, the book is how we can give moms the support that they need in the workplace, but also the why behind it, setting it up from my perspective as a journalist. So it was just so fun. I interviewed historians and sociologists and experts and moms from all walks, theologians, all types of people to figure out how we can give working moms the support they need, but the why behind it, and looking at the research and the history of American families and how we got to this point. Really fascinating and really eye-opening for me. So I'm excited.
Well, let me step back for just a little bit, because I know when we first met, you mentioned that you were still working for ABC, and you had 3 kids. So what was it like having such an intense career and starting a family and having 3 kids. So tell us a little bit about what it was like to have kind of
Yeah.
that fast-paced, demanding role and being a mom at the same time and a wife and balancing your family with that.
Well, I didn't feel like I was doing any of it well. So when I was working, I felt like I should be momming. And when I was momming, I felt like I should be working. So much of the tension that we're all working moms face, we just don't feel like we're nailing it. We're burnt out and carrying all kinds of expectations and carrying all the burdens too of the house. So, but for me, it just wasn't sustainable to have that lifestyle. That's why I pumped the brakes at the height of my career, because my schedule was all over the place and I wasn't able to spend as much time with my kids and my husband as I wanted to. And I was like, why am I having kids if I can't actually spend time with them? So it wasn't sustainable where I was. But yeah, when I walked into, I just became a general correspondent towards the end, and then they chose not to re-sign me. And again, I was like, I didn't feel valued as a mother. I was still doing great work, right? But it just gets to that larger issue in society as a whole, that motherhood isn't valued, right? And I learned in writing the book and talking with scientists and experts that motherhood actually scientifically grows your capacity and your efficiency and your empathy. Parenthood, whether the baby grew in your heart or your tummy, parenthood grows your capabilities like leadership and vision. We talk all about leadership with the GLS. You're a better leader. Like, parenthood is a masterclass for leadership. So there's this perception of mothers that we're a risk and a liability, we're not committed. But then there's the reality, like, I just gained all these superpowers because I'm a parent. I'm a better leader because I'm a parent.
Well, I think it's about family. It's about family too. Men need the same kind of support, and flexibility.
Absolutely.
And things in their careers too. I mean, that helps because it really so much is about your partnership too. To be able to be a working mom is to have a spouse or partner that's helping you. That's in it, not helping you, but that you're a team really doing it together.
Totally. And there's I have one chapter dedicated to inviting men into the conversation. Men are born into their own set of toxic messages of, do you want to be a real man or a good man? And if you're a real man, you provide for your family. That's the one thing you do. So if you don't provide for your family, you feel like a failure, right? I think men can change the game for working moms more than anybody else by doing one thing, and that's taking their paternity leave. And if they don't have paternity leave, then they fight for it. I didn't realize this because my husband didn't take paternity leave. But I have friends whose husbands have, and they're like, it changes the dynamic out of the gate. And yes, there's a stigma around it. Like, a lot of men don't want to take it, but this is the greatest thing they can do for gender equality is to take it, because out of the gate, you're saying, we're parenting together. The mom's not the default. And the healthy families are when both parents are actively involved. But right out of the gate, you're saying, we are in this together to raise this child together. And that actually is the most traditional family of all that I researched. It's not the 1950s family. It's actually the family where the mother and father are co-laboring and co-producing and parenting together. That's the healthiest, most traditional family in American history is what I found. But men have a huge part to play in this, and we need them to be allies. We do. We can't solve this without them.
Yeah, agreed. Oh, well, again, I'm so excited that you're on this fight, that you've done this research and are continuing to raise that to everybody. So excited for the continued book tour and the book rolling out, and you.
Thank you, Lori.
To raise this value. I just want to touch back on your leaving and really kind of going into this new endeavor. How was that? I mean, I think just when I think about what you were doing, the people that you were around, I mean, I know some of the people you got to interview, you were at royal weddings, you were at the Oscars, you were, doing some things people dream about, and never have the opportunity to do. And you stepped away from all of that. Was that hard? Like that transition to kind of not being in the limelight? How did, not that ego might be a bad word, but how did your, identity, was your identity so separate from that, or how did you handle all of that?
So when I stepped away in 2018 and I don't want to say step away, I pumped the brakes. I was still at ABC, but I took on a much less prestigious position. That's when I struggled the most because I didn't realize how much my identity had been tied into titles. And I really struggled to separate my worth from my work and my value from my vocation and my calling from my career. And it forced me to kind of figure out who I was outside of what I did. And it was in that period, which was really challenging because it's definitely a dose of humble pie when you realize you're much more tied to something than you realize you are. And I realized my identity was totally wrapped up in what I did and totally wrapped up in my titles. So I'd kind of already been doing the work at that point when I lost my job. But yes, I had two diverging paths once I lost my job. Do I stay in TV news? Because I did have opportunities, Lori. I had several opportunities to stay. Or do I go for this thing? And I just had to follow that piece that was in my spirit. Jamie Kern-Lima, one of our faculty at the Global Leadership Network, says she followed that knowing. You follow that knowing. And I had a piece that I was supposed to pursue this. And I was scared, though. I was so scared because I wasn't an entrepreneur. I wasn't a founder. I didn't know anything about it, but I had this passion. What I had to do was press into my fear. Okay. Fear. I realized fear is always going to be present when you're called to something, especially something that's out of your comfort zone. I just had to, it's not like the fear ever disappears. I had to normalize it. Fear is going to be there. I get to step into it. I had a peace. So I realized my peace and the fear could coexist together. And I stepped into it, but it was really intimidating. I had to give myself permission to try something new. Mm-hmm. And I had to just realize I got to give everyone else permission to see me in a new capacity. I think that was the hardest thing is, how's everybody else going to view me now? Haven't I always been this one thing? And so giving yourself permission to do something new in a new season. But I'm like, it's kind of given me this permission to I'm going to be called to a lot of different things. We are called to different things in different seasons. And so it's given me permission to try new things. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, according to the world standards, it's okay because my value is not tied to it. My identity is not tied to this. I'm just giving myself permission to walk into this space. So yeah, it's really scary though. But, I'm a person of very deep faith and God keeps showing up. And usually right at the brink when I'm like, okay, God, what's happening next? Please show up. He always does. And, but I have to say, it's been so rewarding. And I feel like this work that I'm doing now is the most important vocational work that I will do. This book is the most important storytelling. It's the most important reporting that I will do, because at the end of the day, it's about supporting families and strengthening families. Most moms work because they have to. 70% of moms will be the primary breadwinner for their families. So if we keep paying them 70 cents on the dollar and we keep devaluing motherhood and scrutinizing motherhood and penalizing motherhood, there's the mommy gap, there's the mom penalty, there's mom guilt, all of these things that we're dealing with. And it's time that we are celebrated instead of being scrutinized. So I do feel like this is the most important work. But stepping into that fear, it's always a little scary. Yeah. So it's still scary. It honestly is. But I have a peace about it. So I'm going to keep going for it.
What are some practical or tangible things that you have done to kind of push through some of the fear? Mm-hmm. Are there any tips you can give us to say how to overcome it?
Well, that's the first thing. You never overcome it. You normalize it. I had to normalize it and just realize when I'm called to something, fear's always going to rear its ugly head. So I came to expect it and anticipate it and normalize it. But also, so that was the first thing. So it's kind of like a paradigm shift, is just expecting it. And you kind of take the power back. It's not like, is it going to show? No, it's going to show up. I know it's going to show up. Mm-hmm. And it's up to me to step into it. One thing that always helped me was, instead of asking what's the worst thing, asking myself what was the best thing that's going to happen if I go for it. And that helped me, that helped reframe it into a positive conversation. I was like, oh my gosh, what is the best thing that can happen if I go for this? Not what's the worst thing. So I think just that paradigm shift of normalizing it, and then realize it's up to you to take that first step. And I don't want to live with the regret of not going for it. The worst that you can say is I went for it and it didn't turn out how I thought, but I never have the regret of not going for it. So flipping the script, normalizing it, expecting it, anticipating it. Oh, here you come again, fear, right? Asking yourself what's the best thing that can happen. And then I don't want to live with this regret. It's up to you. You've got to take that step. It's up to you to take the step. And guess what? Everybody's scared. Everybody deals with it. You're not alone. Every single person deals with fear and fear of failure. Fear of failure is the most common fear that we face as adults. So you're not alone.
As a working mom, my kids are grown, so I'm a little out of the really challenging season. But you're kind of still in it with your 3 kids.
Yeah.
A lot of times you hear people tell mothers, to put your oxygen mask on first. And I think as a working mom, when you're working and trying to care for your family in the best way, it's really hard to take care of yourself still. At least I found it was. How have you been able to still take care of yourself? What things have you learned on taking care of yourself that in that season when you are so busy because your kids are all over the place? You're trying to do everything that you can for them as well as, keep your career going. What have you learned?
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, like more mothers are burned out in America than ever before. And I think there's a reason, because we do try to carry it all. We want to be that martyr and not ask for help. The greatest thing that I have done is decide I'm not going to carry it all anymore. And I'm like turning in my mom martyr badge and I'm asking for help. I can't carry it all. I need help. I can't do it alone. We think asking for help is a sign of weakness or failure, and it's not. So I ask for help. I am that help to other people. I proudly say I cannot do it on my own and I'm not going to carry it all anymore. The other thing I do when I'm kind of reaching burnout status is, so often we're like ruthlessly saying no to things when we burn out, because I just don't want to burn out. But what we can also do is say no to the things that actually bring us joy. So I am really cognizant to like add something in that brings me joy. Say yes to something. So yes, say no to things that aren't your priority, but say yes to something that just brings you utter joy. Like it might be something crazy like, I don't know, I took a trapeze yoga class I write about in the book, and it brought me so much joy. I went with my friends and it was something crazy and fun, and we hung upside down and got dizzy and stretched, and we stretched ourselves, our minds and our bodies, and it was really fun. Say yes to something that is going to bring you joy.
That's great.
So that's pretty my advice. But the main thing I've done is just I turned in that mommy martyr badge. I can't do it all.
How
and
did
I don't
you
want
do
to
that?
anymore.
How'd you do that?
It's a conscious choice, and kind of living in the imperfection of motherhood and realizing like I've got to drop the perfectionism, but giving myself permission to not be perfect. My friend said, Paula, you're going to drop balls every day. Keep the glass ones in the air, because if those drop, they shatter. Drop the plastic ones. Those will bounce. Yeah. And those aren't your priorities. And so that gave me permission to just say, okay, I'm going to be imperfect, and that's okay. And I expect to drop a ball every single day. But I just know it's helped me prioritize which ones I'm going to drop. But it really started with me just saying, I want to do it all, but I can't. Like I used to feel bad for hiring somebody to clean my house, because I'm like, but I can do it, so I'll just do it. And I was also raised in a house where we didn't have a lot of money. We did everything. We were very resourceful and hardworking. I didn't have a professional haircut, Lori, till I was like in 12th grade. So like we did everything on our own. Yeah. And so I think we can, we think that we are, I think in the long run, what we're doing when we're not asking for help is we're like burning ourselves out, and we're almost like idolizing independency. I want to be interdependent on other people. I want to have a village, and to have a village, it means vulnerability, and it means discomfort. It means carrying one another's burdens. It means accepting that I'm going to be imperfect. It means being the help to other people. And if you don't have that, like I've been cognizantly trying to be that help to other people. So like, for instance, I asked my friends, hey, I'm just going to bring your daughter home from volleyball practice. I'm going to carpool. I'm going to pick them up and take them. Like, not waiting. You just jump in and you be that community and tribe to somebody else. And then when I need help, like I'm gone in New York all week. I'm like, I've got one of my friends. She's single, no kids. She's driving my daughter around. She's like Ubering her from high school to volleyball practice to track practice and taking her all around. And like, I'm asking people, I'm like, they're jumping in to help, but I don't feel bad for it anymore. I don't feel bad about asking for help, but that has to start with me and being that help and being that change for somebody else, and then asking for it and building that community. So many, like globally, mothers have such a healthier perspective on work. They don't feel guilt about it. I didn't feel any guilt about this trip. It's the first time I haven't, because I didn't tell my kids like, oh, I'm going to miss you so much. I was like, hey, mommy has a really opportunity to go talk about moms and champion moms. And look at all these. It's like how I framed it. And you get to spend time with mommy's friends and daddy's friends. And so often, like John Acuff, another faculty, he's like, Paula, kids run on mirror neurons, which means they pick up. Like if you say, oh my gosh, I'm so sad, I'm going to be traveling, it's the worst thing ever, your kids are going to then pick up on it. But if you're like, look at this great opportunity mommy has, and God put this call on her heart, and you're going to be surrounded by people that love you. Mommy gets to do this, and I'll be back, but mommy's excited. Aren't you excited for me to do this and for mommy to shine her light? So it's like how we talk about it too. I feel no guilt being here. Yeah. I'm excited. My kids are going to be loved on, and they are going to be cared for, and they have other people trusted people speaking life into them. It's really awesome.
So good.
Totally.
Well, this new era for you seems to really be leaning into what is going to be your legacy, I think. So when you think about that,
thank you.
What are you excited about when you would project it into the future and think about the legacy you're leaving and the example that you are to your kids? Like, what is exciting about that for you?
What does that look like? I want a better future for my kids and for my daughter and my two boys, right? And I want families to be strengthened at the end of the day. Yes, this is like my fight is for working moms, but I want families to be strengthened. I think the real health of a nation is determined by how healthy its families are. Families are the bedrock of our country. And so I feel like that's my legacy at the end is strengthening families by fighting for working moms and my family and going ahead of my kids and making sure that the future is better for them and their families can be well supported.
Oh, well, I am so excited for you, Paula. I'm just thrilled that You Don't Have to Carry It All is launching in the next couple days, and we can dive into the research that you have, the vision that you have for all of this. And I'm excited that you are a founder and are going to help us all. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and share your story, Paula. You're just an inspiration, and I am just thrilled that we have the opportunity to spend time together today and for the years we've had friendship. So thank you.
I'm so excited, and thanks for your support of this. Again, it's not just for working moms. Yes, this is going to help moms find a better way forward towards working and momming. It's a hug and a sword, but it's also like practical, tactical, helpful, hopeful. We need men in the fight. We need corporate America. This is too big to do on our own. And we need to do it at the end of the day if we're really going to say we're about families. So I'm excited to share this message. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
And I love the Global Leadership Network. I love how it has bolstered my leadership. I think motherhood's made me a better leader too. Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm really grateful for all the work that the Global Leadership Network, Global Leadership Summit, and how much I have grown as a human being because of it. So,
well, thanks for being a part of our tribe. We are so grateful for you.
Thank you.
And just wish you the very best with the book launch, and excited to see what comes of it. So, and again, appreciate you in the fight, much. Helping us all get better with this. So thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation I was able to have with Paula. As you can tell, I'm super excited about her book. And I just learned so much even in the conversation. She's obviously done some great research on moms in the workforce. It's been many years since I've had little kids, but it was still a great reminder to me to say no when you need to and say yes to things that are just fun, that are going to help build into yourself. So just a lot of great takeaways for me. Again, just want to say you can find us on social media, on Facebook and Instagram at GLN Summit. And always there are links for the things that we talked about and how you can find out more about Paula and her book in our show notes. So thanks for listening. And again, keep leading right where you are and keep getting better.